the process of living through these wars that made me realize like how much of a first world phenomenon this entire transgender movement is, and how impractical it is to turn a healthy person into a lifelong medical patient, and actually how deeply immoral it is.
Yeah. War brought you back to real life, away from magical thinking. And again, looking at that sort of spectrum where on both sides there's a bit of magical thinking, and in the middle maybe there's hopefully some more rationality. A lot of people who, I mean, now the anti-Israel stuff has been so wrapped up in trans ideology. You must have a lot of, I imagine, do you have many friends who are still in maybe the trans community, who have with the Palestine flags and those things, many of whom deny the atrocities that day that they even took place?
You know, most of my lefty American friends disowned me from the moment that I became an Israeli citizen.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so it's crazy. I mean, but I do know a lot of people who, you know, deny the atrocities of October 7th, or even worse perhaps, is when they've seen the videos, they know it's true, they know it happened, and they justify it. They think it's a good thing. They think it's what Israelis deserve for building a successful country in their ancestral homeland. And what I've noticed about these Western leftists is that, you know, they claim to care so much about the plight of oppressed peoples and minorities. But if you think about it, the Jews are like the ultimate minority. You know, they're the ultimate group of people who have been oppressed, you know, for thousands of years. And you know, anti-Semitism is this type of mind virus that you see in secular societies and religious societies. You see it being done also, you know, under a racialized framework. You know, you see it happen in Christian societies and in Muslim societies, but the hatred of the Jew, it just seems to be like the Jews seem to be like the inherent scapegoat. And you would think that this entire ideological cohort, you know, who purports to care so much about oppressed people, that they might be able to pick up on this a little bit better. But they seem to be incapable of it, because I think that what most, if not all, anti-Semitism boils down to is, you know, that the mark of a civilized society is a society which is capable of tolerating a successful minority. And, you know, on the right-wing side of things, you know, the right-wing kind of ultra-nationalist side of things, you have this, you know, anti-Semitism going through the framework of, you know, maybe racial or religious purity. You know, the Jews are controlling the media, although I guess you see some of these accusations now coming from the left. And then from the left, you see, you know, this type of anti-Semitism that is based upon the fact that the Jews are not actually oppressed because they are white, they are privileged, because they are successful. And so I think that, I don't know, like when I think to all of these leftist American friends who have abandoned me on different points, you know, at different points in my life, what it comes down to is the fact that, well, they can't see the logical extension of the arguments that they make. They don't. It's like we've all forgotten about the Holocaust. I don't know. Like there's just a lot.
This, do you see there was a, well, you wouldn't have seen it actually, because it was in the UK. There was a Muslim woman who gave a TED talk about the schools around where she lives, and that she was very proud that they were starting to replace white European literature, such as The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, with Eastern ones and things like that. And the idea was that The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, being about a Jewish kid in the Holocaust, couldn't even be considered a sort of victim narrative that was worthy of students, you know, that students should be learning about, and it had to be replaced by something that was more Eastern. And that seems to be where we're heading. That Nova Festival, I mean, yeah, you could have been there. I mean, does that plague you, thinking about, you know, had your sober ride been there?
Yeah, I think about it all the time. Like when, like about a week after October 7th happened, I was back in the States. You know, my parents just got me a plane ticket. They didn't even ask me if you want to. They didn't ask me, hey, you want to come home? They just the first chance they had, they got me a plane ticket home, and I was just like, super depressed, just like laying in bed for a couple weeks, couldn't be bothered to shower, brush my teeth, get up. Like I couldn't do anything but like lay in my bed and just sob.
You lost friends. I mean, were any of them hostages? Did you know any of the hostages?
No.
And it's worth reminding people as well that, I mean, you were speaking about Israel, like, they thought it was worth, friends of yours, leftist friends, thought it was fine because they were Israeli. I mean, so many of the victims were Europeans and were there Americans? They were definitely Germans.
Yeah, and there were even Arabs taken hostage.
Christ.
I mean, Hamas, like they saw like a Muslim family driving. I believe that the woman was in labor and they were going to the hospital. I might be wrong on that, but she was wearing hijab and they saw her and they still shot her. And she was, because they don't actually care about Palestinians or Arabs. Like they don't care. They care about their own power and they are willing to maximize, the entire strategy of Hamas is to maximize the amount of civilian casualties that they can get in an operation. And they do this by launching rockets from civilian areas and and hiding weapons in children's bedrooms and turning, the lowest level of hospitals or the kind of building tunnels under hospitals, knowing that this is going to become a military target so that they can maximize civilian casualties. I was trying to convince, for years, I was trying to convince my leftist American friends that even if they don't care at all about the Jews, which I knew they didn't, even if they don't care about the Jews, they shouldn't support Hamas because Hamas is fundamentally very bad to the Palestinians. And I mean, they're jihadis. Mm-hmm. Jihadis don't want states. They don't like borders. They don't like sovereign states. They want a caliphate. Like, how is it so hard for people to get this through their heads? Like, if you want to have a state, just about the worst political actor that you could have is some kind of, ISIS-style jihadi group that is hell-bent on obliterating any notion of a border so that it can just expand its Islamic reach to more and more regions. Like, it's nuts. But, like, back to the question, I mean, there were a lot of times following October 7th where, everything was a constant reminder. Like, the news was always talking about it. And then I'd just come back from Israel and I had family members who wanted to engage in political debates with me about this. Yeah. And I wanted everybody to just stop talking about it because, like, once I started crying, like I couldn't stop. And I'm not normally a crier. Like, I'm actually very good at suppressing my emotions and trying to engage in rational and analytical thought. But there's like absolutely no way to rationalize this. Like, why is it that my friends found a ride? And at the time I was so jealous of them because they found a ride. And like, now I feel guilty for like feeling jealous because like they're dead. And like, why did I not die? Like, it's if I think about it too much, it's like psychologically catastrophic to even consider how it's possible that I was lucky, that I would, like, I don't know how to explain it. Some people say, oh, God is looking out for you. And I'm like, well, why was God not looking out for my friends? They were just as good of people as I was. We were all peace activists. That was a festival full of young peace activists. Like, what the hell?
What do you get accused of being more now, a transphobe or genocide enabler?
Oh, both.
It's about the same.
One, they, in X, they'll see my bio, and I say that I'm, an Israeli American detransitioner, desister, whatever you want to call it, X-trans, right? They see that, and immediately their spidey senses go up, and then they start calling me, a proponent of genocide, colonizer, settler sympathizer, transphobe. They'll make all kinds of comments like, oh, of course, the transphobe also supports, genocide of Palestinians. And it's like, these people are idiots. Like, I was a peace activist. Like, what have any of them done for Israeli-Palestinian peace?
Yeah, well, that's it. Nothing. All the most, the people who have actually been involved most tend to be more understanding of both sides and understanding that when people are trying to help and the nuances and things. And it's those just throwing stones from the outside who usually have done absolutely nothing to help.